Welcome back, everyone. We're lucky to have you after the coffee break, so you should be nicely caffeinated and wide awake to talk about the hot topic that is politics and passports. I'll be honest, I've been in the US now for 15 years, and right now, politics isn't really something that you tend to talk about much. Right. It'll be, I should have come in my MAGA hat, but
would have sparked some conversation for sure.
Yeah, right?
Would have definitely sparked some conversation.
But yeah, lots of interesting developments that are massively impacting our industry. So,
are you sure? It seems like a boring time in politics.
Yeah. But obviously, I'll let these guys introduce themselves first, and then we'll kick off.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. My name is Claudia Delgado. I work for this company called Visa, which I'm sure that all of you in your wallet, you have this little card, right? That protects your data and makes a transaction happen like that, as long as you have money in the bank. But details. I manage the Global Mobility Program at Visa. It is a very robust program for many reasons. There's a lot of stuff happening. We all know that. And I am based out of Austin, Texas. I have team members that are around the world. And I'm happy to be here with Will, that we've known each other for such a long time, and we were just talking about how the last time that we saw each other was few years back in San Francisco, where I used to be living and where I met Will. So Will.
Great to be here. Thank you, Claudia. And I do want to apologize. Nobody on the panel here has a British accent. So we have the, just want to say, we have the distinction of being the first panel, with the exception of Alex. Forgive me, yes, that is not a New York accent, Alex. I am William Taylor, head of partnerships at Relocity. We are a technology platform that provides services for DSP and rental assistance. We're very proud of our partnership with AltoVita. We have an integration with AltoVita that allows our clients to really complete an end-to-end housing journey from the short-term furnished stays to what we focus on, which is really long-term settling in and finding that long-term home. So great to be here. Thank you again. I've had the joy of attending a few summits now. They're always great events, and I am a longtime admirer and fan of the company that Carolina and Vivi have been building for years. They're just outstanding human beings who do an amazing job of listening to their customers and clients and really building to solve those problems. And so congrats on your continued success. That's the whole panel, everybody. Thank you.
Politics and passports. Bum, bum, bum. So obviously we're living in a time where politics and passports are deeply intertwined. Trade policies, tariffs, disruptions in the Middle East, wars, pandemics, you name it. It's been happening over the past 5+ years. So, dealing with these long-lasting effects and looking at the sort of geopolitical changes that are directly shaping, how employees can work and how they can travel and where they can be. I think, just this year, we've seen major moves, like the $100,000 fee with the new H-1B visas, which is hugely impactful when you think about relocating people within your industries. So these can immediately impact that talent mobility and the global workforce. So it's not really a case of if these shifts are affecting the corporate travel and global mobility landscape, it's how. How are they affecting you? How are you navigating that landscape? And sort of whether you're in global mobility or business travel, your teams are the architects of these programs, and your organizations are looking to you to help sort of support and mitigate these risks. So today, we're hoping that you will be able to take away some practical insights, some ideas, and get some peer connections to help talk and navigate these challenges. Because ultimately, the movement of your people is the movement of your business, and it's very important there. I'm just going to start by throwing a question out to all of you, just by show of hands. Have your organizations adjusted any of their travel policies risk management policies as a result of any of the sort of geopolitical, and I love the way Carolina uses this word, headwinds. The geopolitical headwinds, I like that. Nobody has?
Couple of
Yeah.
No changes to policy, no
few folks.
different considerations? Okay, I thought there'd be more, to be honest, but that's interesting. But Claudia, what about visa? What have you guys sort of changed, and what have you seen? How have you been impacted by some of the recent activities?
You know, within the program that I lead, the mobility program, we now have a crisis management playbook, because we need to be able to react, aside from what the company has in place for continuity of business. But within the program, we had to put that in place, and it started right after Russia-Ukraine, where we, in a period of a month, we mobilized more than 250 employees and their families out of Russia. And it was an endeavor. Typically, on a good day, that will take you 3 months. But no, this happened in a month. So I think we took a lot of learnings from that experience. I mean, obviously, like a lot of companies, we ceased our operations in Russia. And but since then, you know, we just had to like adjust and have something in place and ready to go as these things happen. So then, you know, we saw some stuff happen in the Middle East. Same thing. We already had the playbook in place because our travel partners, and really, I think at that point when that happened, we became closely aligned with our travel team. We need to work hand in hand here. You know, you put them on a plane, we're going to find a place where to house them, and then we'll figure it out. So we've been operating that way with same thing with the H-1B proclamation that just happened a few weeks ago. Same thing. Get out the word to our employees who's traveling for business. Maybe we want to get them back as soon as possible to the U.S. because we don't know what's going to happen. So we've embedded that into, like I said, we have a playbook. It's now embedded, and it's also embedded now in our DNA, crisis management plus mobility.
Super. And William, what are you seeing shifting? What are your thoughts on this, and what are your customers doing?
Has everybody here heard the term VUCA? Few heads nodding.
I have not.
You're going to hear more about it. It is a term that was popularized by the military in the 90s to refer to the Cold War era. It's an acronym that stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You know, what we do in mobility and travel management every day of our lives.
Yeah.
We should have probably popularized the term even pre-U.S. Army, but I think this year has been defined by just extreme VUCA, and that will continue to be the state for the next few years. And so, as Claudia touched on, it's really about having a plan. It's about having a plan. It's about having a single source of truth platform that allows you to understand where are your employees, what types of risk are they subject to, how do we communicate with them all at once, how do we leverage AI to understand and make predictions about what might be coming. I think this is, if we think about that very first session when we talked a little about automation, you know, for me, I think, and I think a lot of the folks here who spend some time with AI, the real promise is in agentic AI and what the agents can do when we're all asleep, and where we would typically apply the human logic to, oh my God, there's a crisis in Ukraine or Russia, what do we do? Those agents can now flag those because they're working in real time and they understand what's happening, and they can make recommendations to the humans to take actions. And so I think that's where things get really interesting in managing through a crisis. I think everyone here was affected by the Ukraine and the Russia war when it started, and we all dropped everything to move thousands of individuals. And that's just what we do every day as an industry, whether it's a group move or some other emergency. And so we're sort of well equipped for this kind of development. I feel like it's in our DNA. Absolutely. I think that's, you know, I was talking to Karen at the break, and it's that's what we love about this industry, is the uncertainty and the fact for us to solve complex problems and bring some certainty and some tranquility to the clients that we support.
Okay.
And I think that's where we needed technology, because, you know, like as you were talking about that, I could have like saved so many hours and got to my beauty sleep during that time that I didn't. But yes, if technology would have been able to support 24/7, not just humans, because at some point as a human, you do get tired and you do need to rest. But if you're just going and going, then yeah. Sorry, you just got me thinking, like, could have saved some hours there.
So with these developments, we've already touched on so many things that have happened in the past 12 months or so. But Claudia, what has had the biggest impact, or what do you think is going to have the biggest impact on Visa with these latest developments?
So
Visas and Visa.
Visas for Visa.
The big Visa, that's us. The capital, we do that. I think as a mobility professional, our jobs have changed and have evolved, and they're going to continue changing and evolving. AI is here to stay, and we're just gonna need to adjust to it, and it's a matter of like, how do I adjust to it? How do we make it work for us? With all of these different crises happen around the world, and also economic impact, we have to be pretty nimble with our thinking and our approach. It's not like, well, the policy says this. No, I mean, you're dealing with a human being. They're coming maybe from a location that they need extra support. Maybe they're a single parent. Yeah, the policy's not gonna do it. We are gonna make it happen. So we've sort of as a team, we've gotten out of that mindset that, our processes are what they are, but they're not set in stone, and they have to change because, like you were saying, well, we live in a world of ambiguity, and that's at the core of what we do in mobility. It's ambiguous. You don't go to school to learn about mobility. You're always going to live in ambiguity. I mean, I was just thinking, like, I'm sure there's another profession out there, of course, it's all about ambiguity, but let's just focus on us. Mobility is all about ambiguity, every single facet of it.
Yeah, very interesting. And obviously when we were talking through this panel, I learned something really interesting about yourself, that the changes that have happened of late impacted you so much that you made an entire career pivot. So can you talk to us a little bit about your story?
This is true. I should probably share, because we're here at our support group. I am a recovering attorney. I used to practice immigration law. Anandisa's laughing. She still practices immigration law.
I haven't escaped.
And I spent a lot of time going to law school at night while I worked full-time during the day at Adobe. I ran the program at Adobe. I was very passionate about immigration law. I'm still passionate about immigration law. But there was a moment in my life where a certain administration, we're in the 2.0 version of that administration, came along and sprinkled a lot of crazy dust on the world of immigration. And my life was, working 18, 20 hours a day and giving bad news to really wonderful people. And I had a young family at the time, and I was feeling really mentally challenged and stressed out and unhealthy. And so I made a decision to give up a career that I had pursued for a long time. I may go back to it at some point. I love the world of immigration law and what we do for the foreign national community and what they contribute to our economy and our community. But it was a point where I had to make that decision. And so I got out, right?
I guess we'll see what happens with the next administration.
We will see, right? I mean, obviously, I'm still connected to our broader community here, and I still pay very close attention as we think about, it's not just the $100,000 potential fee. Obviously, there's lots of lawsuits pending now. It's I think it's the restrictive mindset that many jurisdictions are placing on inbound talent. It's not just the U.S. We're seeing it in a lot of places, and that is contrary to economic growth. And so I think that's what frustrates so many of us, because we know the impact. And right now, work is actually undertaking a big study to understand the economic impact of mobility. So if you see the link, participate in that, encourage you to get involved in that study, because it will really help the industry with advocating for certain changes with certain bureaucracies, et cetera.
Absolutely. And sort of beyond the visas, and I guess we're actually not going beyond, we're going backwards here. And you already touched on the Ukraine-Russia war and the fact that you mobilized that many people. How do you make that decision to pull people out of a location?
So like that one, or even the proclamation when it came out which was on a Friday, right? Because that's what we've gotten used to here in the U.S. Friday, 5 p.m. Please, please, please. No. So it was one of these things that in Kerwin we were talking about it, how these events really shine a light on mobility and the role that mobility plays for any organization. For us during Russia-Ukraine was just, there were conversations internally. I was just waiting for the email to a very small group of us from our CEO, just saying, this is what we're doing. And then, just let's give everybody, I know it's a weekend, but here we go. We have to. And we know how to do these things, right? We're really, we're in mobility for a reason, right? Because we understand people, we understand that we need to help people, but we also know how to move people. Like you just got to get them out. The rest you can solve for, sure, but my goods, they'll come eventually. If some of them do get to get their goods. And the same thing a little bit happened with that Friday on the proclamation, how do you react? Well, we saw the news, and then you have to immediately start, telling your senior leaders, hey, this is interesting, something is bound to happen. Over that weekend, on that Saturday, I did make an executive decision, and I felt pretty empowered to make that decision, and that was to reach to our entire U.S.-based foreign national population to just let them know. Perhaps it's a good thing if you come back into the U.S. if you're not here, because none of us manage personal travel, right? So let's just get the word out. And like a lot of Fortune 100 companies, you do have protocols before you start sending out emails. I just felt pretty empowered. I just went it's okay. If somebody's going to be upset, I'm curious to know what they're going to be upset about. No one was, which was a great thing. But then all of our senior leaders were heavily involved that weekend. What is happening? What are we doing? And it was just constantly keeping people informed, updated as much as you could update in a situation that you didn't really know what was happening. But then everybody had an idea, uncertainty again. So all we know is that worst case scenario, folks may not be let in. So why don't you just recommend that they come back?
Yeah, and I think repatriating people is one thing, but I think when you talk about for example, the Russia-Ukraine, how do you differentiate between your employees who are based there, who have an office there, who live there, versus the ones that you've relocated and you're now going to support and remove them, and I guess leave the other ones behind?
And so that's going to depend on the organization. I mean, we are a very employee-centric organization. So folks that we may have relocated, but if there's a crisis going on in that location, now we're going to make the effort to, place them temporary, park them in another location before we can even try to find them jobs in other locations. That's how employee-centric we are, which is really, it says a lot about the company and the company culture, employee first, because, we're the best asset for any employer, right? People.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned your protocol pack that you guys have in place now as to refer to for when these things happen. But how are you generally monitoring, any risk management and things like that for traveler tracking and safety?
Yeah, so we partner closely with our security team. They're part of our ecosystem, also best friends now, since Russia-Ukraine. We partner closely with our travel team, ourselves, our government engagement team. So our ecosystem, we always knew it was there, but it wasn't necessarily that they knew that we were there. And now they know that we're there. I almost say the table was there and they were part of that conference room. Just immediately, we just got thrown in there oh yeah, and got given the microphone and never let it go. So that's what we do.
So Will, then, as part of a technology company, what are you sort of seeing out there with new technologies that are emerging? How are people managing geopolitical risk? What are you guys doing to better support
Look, I
this?
think they're doing things like bringing corporate travel and mobility together. They're adopting single source of truth platforms like AltoVita so that they understand. For many years we've had sort of location intelligence apps, but in some respects you're kind of forcing an employee to adopt an app that they might not feel comfortable with, right, just out of privacy and confidentiality concerns. But with tools like AltoVita, obviously you guys have a great integration now with ISOS. you are able to understand where are your employees and what risk are they subject to, and how can we push out notifications to them all at once to sort of warn them what's coming or communicate a particular policy. So I think this is one of the real benefits of working within a platform like AltoVita that is truly global, that is already thinking through those future scenarios by bringing in solutions like an ISOS or Relocity or whatever other providers might make sense within that platform.
Absolutely. So going beyond physical safety and the traveler tracking pieces, what other considerations do you think organizations should be prioritizing for travelers in today's sort of volatile climate?
I think that, I know, so that we need to keep those lines of communication open. First with your employees, just make them aware. People know, but sometimes you just have to remind them there's a world out there and there's stuff happening. And you just need to remember that and take that into consideration. When you make your personal choices for travel, an employer can only help you so much. But then when it comes to business travelers, we have a tile within the business travel page that is about mobility, but it's I call it all kinds of warnings. Just know, and even when you book travel to certain locations, there are pop-ups that are going to come up that we give that language to our travel team, because we want the business travelers to make informed decisions as they're making their travel. We also put out communications every now and then. We don't want to overwhelm anyone. We just want to FYI, something to remember as you're traveling, but mostly for managers to know that. We currently have a situation of someone that they're looking to him to come to the U.S. for one of our conferences and be the keynote speaker. Well, he was born in Iran and has an Australian passport, doesn't qualify for ESTA. The timeline to get a B1, B2 is really, it's going to take too long. So, and that's a problem, because that's talent that we need to bring to the U.S. or to any part of the world, that we should be able to manage that. But it's how do you just make sure that people are informed and educated? These things are not as easy as they used to be, and there's a domino effect, not just for the U.S., globally.
I think it goes beyond physical safety as well. I think it really comes down to emotional well-being, making sure that we're providing support there. And then we're also coaching and guiding people on the threats to their data and their devices, right? And so how do we make sure that we're communicating in an effective manner and sort of spoon-feeding them the information so that they're preparing for that trip? Whether they're a seasoned traveler or it's the first time that they're traveling, they need to be aware of all of the risks that might be inherent in that particular location. And again, I can't help but think of the power of agentic AI and the fact that it can connect so many great data sources and do something as simple as warn Alex that there is a hurricane that's going to hit Miami next week. And so, Alex, I know you have a flight on Tuesday, but the hurricane hits on Tuesday. Here's 3 new options of flights for later in the week. Pick one that makes sense for you. And the agents can do that in real time and serve that up to you because it's connecting all of the dots. Yeah. So that's, again, where I think these platforms can really play a powerful role in planning for some of these events.
It's interesting as well when you go sort of beyond the physical safety of the risk management pieces, and Claudia, you talked about how important culture is and your people are within Visa. So how do you guys sort of educate around sort of the D&I elements and support in that sense?
We just, that's what I was saying. Our policies are not going to be able to support everyone. And we don't. We're going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to extend other services as needed. We had, I think it was this year, that we have a new country manager for one of our Central American countries, and there are same-sex marriage. Well, couldn't get something for this for the spouse. Our employee got the work permit, everything, but we couldn't get something for the spouse. I'm like, we're going to have to get creative. Just because local laws don't allow for it, doesn't mean that we don't have the the responsibility to support our employee and their families, because that's important to us. We end up figuring something out, and it's a happy ending story, so that's great. But you know what? But it was just, to all of us within the program, within the company, it's like, okay, well, let's figure something out. Let's put our best foot forward. But let's also make sure that they get a briefing on safety, because there's that other component too. You know, when we were going to move them, do we want to move this family composition to this one country, knowing how maybe they're not going to be welcome? So that was another part of it too. It's like, let's take care of their well-being too. Let's have them go through a briefing. So
yeah, it comes back to that pre-trip. Sometimes it's a pre-trip assessment or just a pre-trip consultation to help that family understand what they're getting into and helping them make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad it was a happy ending story. I feel like we need a happy ending story. It's a little heavy when you start talking about the impacts that are happening in this current climate. But from everything you've experienced, I don't even want to say it now, it sounds too depressing, but from wars to terrorism, pandemics, et cetera, that we've been dealing with of late, what advice would you offer to organizations to be better prepared, to be able to pivot through and navigate this landscape?
I would say, when these things happen, it's kind of like, oh, your heartbeat goes way up. Just go into it knowing that you're not going to have the answers for anything. You know what you know. You know that you're really good at certain things, but other things you're not going to have the answer. Just be transparent with people. Just say, like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure that out. And that's how we approach all of these situations. Again, when the heart rate goes all the way up, like, okay. And even my team, like, they're sometimes looking for answers. And like, I don't have the answer for everything. If I did, then I wouldn't have a team, right? So let's all put our heads together and try to figure it out to the best of our abilities.
What she said. No, I'm just kidding.
Take it away,
I
Will.
would
Wrap
say,
us up here.
look, I don't think you can over communicate. I think communication is essential. I think being connected and partnering with the right folks internally, whether it's the travel manager or the head of talent or the head of risk or HR, if mobility is not having that conversation with the stakeholders internally, then maybe you're at the wrong company because they don't care. Right, and I've spoken to too many mobility leaders recently who say that their leadership has no interest in the data. They have no interest in what's happening, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's not the right company for you, or maybe there's a values gap there. So, and maybe we haven't done something to support them to up-level their conversation, right? So, I think it comes back to communication, planning, having a policy. And being able to iterate and adapt when you need to. And I think our industry is really well equipped for that.
Super, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, both of you. Godspeed to everybody in the room. Any questions for the panelists?
There's some.
Just under
Susie.
2 minutes.
I can just be loud.
Oh, okay. I was going to throw you the microphone.
It's not really a question as much as it's a comment, just kind of combining both of your last statements, or what you might call them. I think global mobility is uniquely poised to bring the human being to the center of disaster recovery, risk mitigation. When we get all of the suits in the room and we get dragged into the room, none of them are recognizing that there's a human being and a family tied to that situation. And so just kind of bringing that together, I think we have an obligation, but also we are uniquely poised to bring humanity into that situation.
Amen.
Absolutely. Well said.
Beautifully said, Susie. Thank you. Kerwin.
Just about what's next. What are you anticipating in terms of what's going on that will allow us to raise the relevance of mobility? And I raise that with some subtle hints towards, I think there's a world out there that's bigger where we can try to find our place. Specific examples, all of these trend and waves of changes around pay transparency, pay transparency versus visa versus prevailing wage around the world. How can we be part of those conversations perhaps So when how we fill jobs and the people we hire, people we move, immigration, mobility, talent, etc., versus all the compliance, regulation stuff that's happening in the world. So what are other areas? Again, if you are encouraging this room,
Yeah.
where can we go? It's not enough that we're responding. It's
Yeah.
a lot to respond to uncertainties and some
Yeah.
craziness going on, Friday announcements, all of that. But there must be something else.
I mean, technology is a big one. Just understanding that it is there to help you and how you're going to adapt to it and how to make it work for you. Like, we can have mobility. We have so many platforms, right, that we work from because we have different suppliers. We've always said it. There's no centralized place. Sure, you can create it, but you have to have a good platform, or just have you can even house a platform, or house all of your data, which I think will be a better thing, and then just spit it out to whoever you need to spit it out to, whether it's your tax provider, whether it's your immigration supplier, your DSP housing. But I think we need to start taking ownership of our own data.
Yeah.
That's the substance that we get to bring in those
Yeah.
conversations.
I also think there's a huge opportunity for mobility to do more advocacy work, do more work to get. And I love the work that Kerwin that you've done at UT Dallas to help Professor Zadorek at the business school there build out this mobility focused track, right, where they literally they do all of these projects and they come to the events and present. And as an industry, we need to go do more of that work at the university level. We need to get more young people inspired by what we do, and then we need to go out and advocate with our political leaders and help them understand the impact of what we do. And we need to be speaking on social. We're all connected to thousands of people. Amongst all of us, we have 1 million or 2 million or more connections on LinkedIn. Why are we not out there socializing the impact of what we do? And so I think it's a ground up sort of movement that we can all, because we can all get in this room and high five each other and speak passionately about what we do. We love that, but we need to go out and sing that to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're over time. So thank you very much to our panelists.